Hello, Year 8, and welcome to the first lesson in a completely new unit. So we are skipping ahead in time quite some way, but we do have quite limited time remaining. So today we're going to start by looking at the civil rights movement, the 1960s civil rights movement in America, the African American civil rights movement. But just to give you a brief lowdown, to sort of tie you in from the 19th century, which we were just looking at, and the 1960s. In 1863, Abraham Lincoln, President of the United States from 1861 to 1865, freed 1860 to 1865, freed the slaves of the U.S. with the famous Emancipation Proclamation. That was his declaration that all the slaves in America should be free. In 1865, he was assassinated by a man who supported the system of slavery, which was practiced in the South. Big shame. They made quite a few attempts in America in the 1860s and 70s to integrate the former slaves into the broader country, but there was a lot of resistance from the people who supported the old system, and there were a lot of compromises made between the Northerners, the white Northerners and the white Southerners, and many of these compromises resulted in the Southerners, the white Southerners, being given the freedom to do what they wanted in their part of the country, and a lot of that involved introducing restrictions, controlling the freedom and the rights of the newly freed slaves, and that system was known as Jim Crow, or just segregation. And the civil rights movement, which we're going to look at, was launched to try and break down this system of segregation and legal discrimination. Yeah. So that could be one of your titles, Civil Rights Movement 54 to 68, or you could use the title from the team's post. All right, so we're going to start with a quick odd one out activity. I'm going to present you with four key people. You may have seen all four of them, you may have only seen one of them, but I just want you to work out what you think connects the three men and leave one odd person out. So, number one, who is this man? Number two, who is he? What does he have in relation to the man on the left? This man here, what connection does he have to the others? And finally, this man here. So pause the video, have a long think about who these four people might be, and then what connects three of them, and leave one of them out. All right, pause. Okay, now you've resumed. I suppose any answer would be valid really for this, so long as it left three of them out. You could start with the very basic and say these three are connected because the picture shows them pointing. Or you could say these three are all black and he's not, he's white. So you could have it on that basis. Or if you know a bit more about these people, you might say that, well, I know these two fought for, to some extent, civil rights. So JFK passed some laws while he was president that allowed for greater equality. A lot of people said it didn't go far enough, but he made some attempt. Martin Luther King spent his whole life fighting discrimination and segregation. You could say that connects them. And in another way, so did Malcolm X, which leaves this person out. So we need to now work out who this person might be. His name is Robert F. Williams. This is his grave. It is he's buried in the state of Wisconsin in the northern United States, the Midwestern United States. He died in 1996, and at that time, this woman was alive. Her name was Rosa Parks, who you might know about, and she gave the eulogy at his funeral. And a eulogy is when you are selected to say good things about the deceased. And at his funeral, Rosa Parks said that Robert F. Williams, this man who I suppose was the only one that, the more informed amongst you would never have heard of or never have seen, right? And she said he should go down in history and never be forgotten. It's a really interesting statement if you're thinking as a historian, to say that someone should go down in history and never be forgotten, because it brings up a lot of questions. One is, well, why do I know the other three and not him? What did he do to deserve that accolade, this statement from Rosa Parks? And is she perhaps a reliable source for this kind of statement about this man. Do we trust her? Now, if I was speaking at the funeral of someone who I cared about deeply, I might say the same thing. They should go down in history and never be forgotten. But that might be because of my connection to that individual and not because I actually think they're genuinely historically significant. So then we have to put in other criteria to determine whether Rosa Parks is right to say he should go down in history and never be forgotten. So I want you to write down her statement. And I want you just to write down the ways it gives the idea that Robert F. Williams is historically significant. What in that statement suggests he is historically significant about the time she gave. So pause, answer that question, and let's move on. Finally, and I need to give you a bit of time there, should we trust Rosa Parks' opinion about the significance of Robert F. Williams? So just answer that question in a sentence or two. If you say yes or no, so you have to put it in a full sentence. Yes, I do trust Rosa Parks for this reason. You need to be quite clear. Okay. Now, as I said, many of you will know who Rosa Parks is in some way or other, but many of you will never have heard of her. What I want you to do now is I want you to click on the YouTube link, and you'll find that. If you go onto YouTube, find my channel, and it will be called Lesson 1, Rosa Parks and the Montgomery Bus Boycott. Click on this video, watch all of it, and then answer this question. Why was Rosa Parks in a respected position to speak on behalf of African American people in the late 20th century? Okay, so that would be your next task. We're going to move on now to another source. So when I was researching and putting together this sequence of lessons, I had heard of this man called Robert F. Williams. So I wanted to find out a bit more about him. And the way that you do that as a history student, as a historian, is you go to books, right? So I picked out a book that I'd had for many years. It was called Better Day Coming by a man called Adam Fairclough, who's a history professor in America. It's called, the subtitle is Blacks and Equality, 1890 to 2000. And this is a really popular book. It's supposed to be the authoritative account of the civil rights movement. It covers a broad sweep of time. It has lots and lots of key individuals in there. So I go into the index page, and I want to find out what page I can go to find out more about this Robert F. Williams character. So I open it up, an index page there, 384, and okay, we have quite a lot of Williamses there. Albert Williams, Fanny Barrier Williams, Fanny C. Williams, Henry Williams, Kenneth Williams, Samuel Lang Williams. Okay, well, we're going into Williamsons now. So, interesting. There seems to be a mistake or something. Now, based on what you've just seen there, this process of historical investigation, what questions would you want to ask now about Robert F. Williams? So comparing the omission of Robert F. Williams from this book, like the fact he was left out, to the fact that Rosa Parks at his funeral said he should go down in history and never be forgotten. Right? There's a disconnect there, really, that we need to address in some way. Okay, and some of the questions you might want to ask might be along the lines of, was he significant? Why was Rosa Parks lying or being nice about this man when he is not that important, you might say. But another question that you might have would be, why has he been forgotten? Right? So Robert F. Williams has been forgotten, clearly. So we need to investigate, why has he been forgotten? Has he been left out of the history books with good reason or not? Okay, and once you've written that as your inquiry question, you can write in big font. I want you to go and watch the final video of the lesson, and that's here, lesson 1, Robert F. Williams and Armed Self-Defense. So have a watch of that, and then I want you to answer that question. What do you learn about why Americans might have forgotten about Robert F. Williams from the clip that you see him presented in there? All right, and then there is an extension task for those of you that are really, really interested in this unit now. Is when and why was the Ku Klux Klan founded or started in the USA? Good luck.